Thank you, everyone. Welcome to today's work session. We will be talking about board and commission support and resources, and I believe Taisha is here to lead this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. It's so good to see you all today. I am Taisha Hinton with the Office of Community Engagement, and I will be before you today to just share an update on the types of resources and support that we've been providing to staff liaisons in their respective boards and commissions. So I'll do a somewhat brief timeline of what that support looks like, and then I'll spend a moment speaking about the communications, guidance, and resources. And then my colleague, Beth Stagner, will come up to talk about the IT perspective. You'll see BCC throughout the presentation. That stands for Boards, Commissions, and Committees. And it is just a tongue tie to say more than twice. So BCC, Boards, Commissions, and Committees. The Office of Community Engagement currently supports 23 of our boards and commissions. Those are the ones that are only appointed by this body, okay? And then our support here with the liaisons includes bi-monthly staff liaison meetings where we get together, we play music, and we share updates on what the boards have going on. We address concerns that the different liaisons are facing and just discuss experiences. It's a collaborative space that gives them the opportunity to not only get support, but hear from individuals that also serve in that same capacity. We also coordinate applicable trainings and communications that may be needed for all of the staff liaisons at one time. In our work, we just try to promote best practices. We've worked with the liaisons to co-develop a universal handbook, which I'll speak more about later. We're a conduit of information. So if it needs to come from you all or from the city manager's office, we meet with them regularly to get that information to the liaisons. And then we maintain the board and commission or committee list, which I'll also speak about later. So here's a better visual of that timeline, and I'm speaking between the time of January of this year to November. You may recall in January we came before you with communications, and we talked a lot about the support that we were providing to the liaisons with templates, social media, etc. That's around the time when our office formally began serving in our leadership role to provide support to the staff liaisons. That support looks like, again, that onboarding training. We heard a lot from you all, from members who currently serve on boards or commissions, and from the public, that there just wasn't a universal high-level information that was provided to them. So that was identified in January. We also worked to better define what the roles and responsibilities of the liaisons were. As you can imagine, for some individuals, it's a part of their job description. Others volunteer, others are voluntold. So we really just wanted to get an understanding as to what it is they did in this position, so that if a new person wanted to serve as a staff liaison, they understood what they were getting themselves into. Professional development was another area that we work on. For example, somebody from our office recently attended a training in Chapel Hill about support to boards and commissions. So the content from that training will be shared with all the liaisons to help them in their roles. And then CoreCon and SharePoint resources, which I'll speak to a little later. Also in January, we, believe it or not, we did not have one place that was updated with all the staff liaisons across the organization, or who the council liaison was, and what the board or commission was. So we started developing that. We also now have one place where you can find who all the communications administrators are, which supports our website, which IT uses for the new, for the Granicus dashboard that Beth will present on later. And again, it was kind of the one-stop shop to understand all logistical information specific to our boards and commissions. In February, we formed a small group of about 6 to 7 liaisons to begin developing that onboarding training that I spoke about. And so that's also when we further clarified the communications guidance with the goal of just, to the best extent possible, and within the parameters of the work that they were responsible for, to make sure that we were all on the same page. From a branding perspective, also in February, we revisited what city branding looks like across all boards and commissions. So at one point, there were boards and commissions kind of using their own brands or sub-brands, so that was clarified. We also, working with communications, were clear on the amount of custom work that the communications team can provide to the boards or commissions. So that's one custom piece per year. This is around the time anticipation in a couple of months we were about to return back to in-person meetings. So we began the conversation around streaming videos, who could stream depending on the room availability. And then we also rolled out, in partnership with the city attorney's office, a legal disclaimer that the boards or commissions use, particularly on social media, but in other instances as well. So this probably looks familiar to you all. In the top left corner are the print materials that are provided. So that's the templates for brochures, postcards, and flyers, which is all unbranded. So far, the templates have been received very well. The staff liaisons can access them, and they use that to support their boards and commissions in getting information out to the public. The city website is on the far right side. That's still communications #1 tool for RaleighNC.gov, and we've made sure all the pages for the boards and commissions were updated and reflected appropriately. And then on the bottom left are the forms in Microsoft Office, and then Gov Delivery over there in the bottom. Again, all resources readily available, unbranded, and what our staff liaisons use for their boards or commissions. In the social media world, all of the boards and commissions run their own social media accounts. It's been an adjustment, but for the most part, we're all abiding by this guidance. It's some instances you'll see on the bottom, there's a tweet that talks about applying to all boards or commissions. So at a high level, sometimes on our RaleighNC.gov media, we'll say board and commission applications are open to all. So if there's an instance where it applies to most of our boards and commissions, we'll run it that way. And then this document that you see here was put together in partnership with communications. When we were making all these changes, what we heard from the liaisons were, it's hard to get this to our board and commission members, or they have a lot of questions about these changes. So we tried to capture that in this one pager that talks about, again, their responsibilities, the disclaimer, and the types of communication support that has been made available to them. So now we are going to skip down to March. That's when we rolled out the board, commission, and committee public-facing dashboard. So that's what's out there now. And this was our effort to show the demographic makeup of the individuals that currently serve on your boards and commissions, as well as information about pending vacancies that exist, or current and pending vacancies that exist. And Beth will talk about phase 2 of that in a couple of slides. Now on to April. We started to have further conversation about branded versus unbranded, and working with the council liaisons, the staff liaisons, and a couple of other departments. We realized that there were several events that were promoted across the organization that just fell in the board or commission world that we decided would be branded, and those are the events that you see there on the screen. There are some exceptions to the branding piece. So the ones that you see on the screen are statutory exceptions where it's required that the city branded be used for different communications and reports coming from these groups here. And also in April, when we moved back from virtual meetings to in-person meetings, there was just a lot of conversation. We had a couple of boards and commissions that were created in the pandemic, so they had not met in person. So we had to figure out how to get them caught up, decide on which room they wanted to use, if it was going to be broadcast by RTN. It was quite the experience, but we did figure it out with everyone. Also, in that transition time, we had many boards and commissions that shared with us that their attendance grew while they were in meeting virtually, and we had to identify ways to help kind of sustain that increased attendance. And so we did that by talking about 360 webcams where they were able to use in a view-only mode without comments or chat options. There were a couple of room conflicts, so we brought in engineering services to help walk some of our newer liaisons as how to book those rooms. And then, believe it or not, parking. We had to have a lot of conversations about what the parking rules were and just a lot of things that in that COVID time that kind of fell back of mind, and we wanted to make sure that all the liaisons had the accurate information at the same time. On CoreCon, if you see that green square there, that's where our staff liaisons, communications and IT, we develop a web page. Again, for all of the information that I'm sharing with you today can be found on CoreCon. It also has links to Board Docs, ServiceNow, Drupal. So if someone started today as a staff liaison, they have a starting point to understand what the resources and support that's available to them. In June is when we rolled out the Board of Commission member exit survey, and we wanted to make sure that we just captured their experience so that we can use the information to identify opportunities for improvement, and we share that information with the staff liaisons. On the screen is just an example of the types of questions that we ask. So what did you enjoy the most about your experience? What are your biggest challenges? Tell us what you think the board should undertake next. And again, those are all some of that's just a snapshot of some of the questions. It doesn't take too long to complete, but in working with the liaisons, we were very thorough and intentional about the types of questions that we asked. Also in the month of June was around recruitment time for the Community Engagement Board, which I'm a little biased to, but you all see the demographic makeup applicant information. So we piloted that in June with the IT department to kind of help you all see who was out there, who was applying. And so that was also in June. And then in August is when we rolled out our lovely Board and Commission Training Handbook, and there's a photo of that you see on the screen. The intent there, again, is to give baseline information to folks who are volunteering their time with us to serve on a Board of Commission, to make sure that they have context and that they have any other pertinent information to serving on a Board of Commission. I do want to take this moment to thank the 6 or 7 staff liaisons that worked as a small group to get this done. It was not an easy thing to accomplish, but they had several meetings, and in addition to those staff liaisons, the departments on the screen assisted with getting this completed as well. So thank you to them. There's different sections in it that speak to the things related to the departments that you see on the screen. In October, so specific to that handbook that you just saw, the staff liaisons decided their approach that they wanted to take to roll that out. So that they chose a train the trainer model where between the now and the end of the year, the staff liaisons will be trained on the content of the handbook, and then they will go to their respective boards and commissions to train them on the information that's there. In this particular approach, they did also create a supplemental PowerPoint presentation. Our city attorney's office has seen the handbook as well, so we're all good to go there. And the handbook is just the high-level approach to serving on a board or commission. The staff liaisons still have to train those individuals on the context specific to their board or commission. Every board or commission has a different purpose and objective. That is not captured in the handbook, but the experience as an organization and the different policies that apply to them as Board of Commission members is covered. Those next trainings will be, their first one will be November 30th, and then their second one will be December 7th, excuse me. And the goal is to begin in January with providing this content to the Board of Commission members. So some of our next steps before Beth comes to join me here at the podium includes their staff liaisons having conversations about an annual gathering of some sort. We're trying to decide, our vision for it is it to be kind of an appreciation event for their time and their service to the boards and commissions, and give them the opportunity to connect and network with one another. We're still building out the CoreCon page and providing any support that we can to the dashboard. And then we're also working on creating a SharePoint webpage for the staff liaisons as well. And I will turn it over to Beth.
Thank you. Good day. Good to see you, Beth Stagner, IT. I got 3 more slides for you. So one of the other things that we did during this time period was we've looked at a platform to provide a streamlined application approach for people that are interested. This also brought in the possibility to have attendance information that's managed by some of the liaisons that Taisha just mentioned. It provides an application filtering and search method so that as you do get people in there, you can kind of look and see what's going on. And it also, the clerk's office worked to really get the term requirements and the vacancies and the dates in there so that you're really seeing that rolling view of what's coming up and what vacancies are on hand. Some of the big aspects of it from a end user experience is it's much more streamlined. So while we did have online forms for the boards, there was one for every board. Now, granted, all the questions may have been the same, but it was still segregated data. So now it's come into one application form. There are still unique questions for certain boards that we have, but it's all coming in through one spot, and the person doesn't have to go and enter the same information on multiple areas. It also allows them to save. I mean, if y'all have gone to anything and tried to put something in, if it gets more than 10 questions, you're kind of out if you haven't really prepared for it. So this time they can start it, and as long as they start with an email address, they can save it and come back to it. So they can look through all the information, decide what they want to put together, and then come back to it. Now, if they come back to it, well, it's going to email them. So it's going to have automatic email notifications that say, hey, you know, you started an application about a week ago. You haven't submitted it. You want to finish it? Click here. Hey, you're getting close. It's been 2 weeks. It's been a month, whatever it is. And so it continues to automatically remind them that they've got a started application that has not been submitted. And it also reminds them at a certain period that says, we don't want to hold on to the information you gave us. So if you're not interested in finalizing it, then we're going to clear out your data. And so they get a warning about that too. And also, you can attach documents. So a lot of times it was, hey, do you want to send a resume? And then they had to remember to go to an email and send an email that has the resume, and it has to be joined up. This time it's there, it's attached. Not only have we provided a resume, but another kind of document that may be more of a cover letter or something else if a resume is not something they have. And then lastly, it's real-time information. So you can see people who have started an application who maybe haven't finished it, or you can see as soon as they've submitted it that it moves into an application state. So what's next for this platform? We're gonna start to streamline the website. So when you go now to the website, 23 boards, list of members. When any of that changes, that's some behind the scenes of a liaison finding that out, notifying somebody in the web team to update the content. Not very efficient. So with the new platform, it has some code that's embedded that's going to be real time. So you're going to see vacancies, current members, term updates, any of that, without a lot of manual touching behind the scenes. There's also going to be an application or an apply button sitting right there. So when there is something that has a vacancy and they're reading about it, they can go ahead and take that action right there. And then it's going to be consistent. So no matter what board you're on, the look and feel is going to be the same across. And so the next thing will be training. So we'll be training the council as well as their support staff to be able to go into this and find information, do some research. I think that's the end. Yeah. Hand it back to Taisha.
And that concludes the presentation, unless you all had any questions.
Do we know when the training is going to take place?
For the IT piece? Whenever you want was the answer to that.
Okay. I wanted to bring up one thing that we did when this council first came on board. And we had asked to bring the boards together for a big ideas forum. And I still have all the ideas sitting in my office. What happened was COVID hit, and it just kind of disappeared. Have we considered doing something like that again?
So to this point, the conversation has just been primarily about how do we get them together, but I think a big ideas forum is it, and definitely something that we can incorporate or modify to meet what you've expressed and with the thoughts or ideas that the staff liaisons have expressed so far too.
Okay, I think it would be helpful if strategy and innovation was involved with this and provided leadership in making that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Branch?
I just want to say thank you. Having served on the board before joining council, there was no boarding, there was no offboarding. There was, try to figure it out. Luckily, we had good staff and liaisons that were able to help. But I definitely want to say thank you because now people have a starting point to move forward. So definitely thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you for your hard work. We really appreciate it. And since there are no more questions, I'll adjourn the meeting, but I have a motion that I have to read. Motion is in order to enter closed session pursuant to GS 143-318-11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, or fitness of individual public officers or employees. So we will adjourn.
Second.
Oh, that was the motion?
Second.
All in favor? We have a lot going on today, so you can tell the mood I'm in.
It's cold in here.